4.3 phase shift. We have new formulas, or new equations rather. Y equals k plus a sine times bx plus c, or y equals k plus a cosine bx plus c. Now a is still your amplitude, that is your height. Period, still the same thing, 2 pi over b, and then you divide your period by 4. And then k is your vertical shift. Vertical shift is either shifting up or down. Now, in today's new lesson, we have phase shift. Phase shift is shifting left or right. And you have a new formula. It's negative c over b. Okay, let's look at example number 1. Y equals cosine x minus pi over 4. Okay, we are going to find all the necessary information. A here is 1. A is the number in front of the cosine. Period, 2 pi over b. b is 1. b is the number in front of the x, which is 2 pi. And then you divide your period by 4. So 2 pi divide 4 is pi over 2. Now, if you were to make your chart, we always start at 0. And then we're going to count by pi over 2. Pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, 2 pi. And since this is cosine, cosine starts at the A, 1, 0, negative 1, 0, 1. Then we have phase shift. Formula is negative c over b. So negative. What is my c? C is negative pi over 4 divided by b is 1. So negative negative is positive pi over 4. Since it's positive, we're going to shift to the right. Now, one thing with phase shift, we have to look at the denominator. When you divide your period by 4, which is a 2, and the phase shift, which is a 4. If it's not the same, we need to find LCD. So the LCD of pi over 2 and pi over 4 is pi over 4. So we're going to count by pi over 4. 1, 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5, 4, 6, 4, 6, 4, 6, 4, 7, 4, 8, 4. How do we know where to stop? You stop here, which is the period. It ends at 2 pi. Okay, our A is 1. Make sure you label everything. Is there a K here? Forgot to ask you. There's no K. So K equals none. Okay, now, cosine. We start at the 1. So 1. Now, 0, but we don't put it on pi over 4. We put it at pi over 2. We're looking at these on the chart. So at pi over 2, you go at 0. At pi, you go down 1. At 3 pi over 2, you back at the 0. At 2 pi, up 1. Okay, and then you draw your cosine graph. Now, we are going to shift the graph to the right. But how many times to the right? Okay, let's look. Now, from 0, we always start at 0. From 0 to pi over 4, because we're going to shift from 2 pi over 4. From 0 to pi over 4, so how many times do I shift? We're going to shift to the right 1 time. Okay, so every point we're going to go to the right once. So once, 1 time to the right, 1 time to the right, 1 time to the right. And because we went 1 time to the right, I need to have this label here. So this 2 pi is 8 pi over 4, so 9 pi over 4. And draw your graph. And that's your answer. Okay, let's look at number 2. Number 2, y equals sine times the quantity x plus pi over 3. A here is 1, period, 2 pi over b. B is 1, which is 2 pi. Then you divide your period by 4. So 2 pi divide 4, pi over 2. K, we don't have. Phase shift, negative c over b is the formula. Negative c is pi over 3 over b is 1, which is just negative pi over 3. Since it's a negative, we're going to shift to the left. Now, if you were to make your table, these are where your major points are going to be at. We always start at 0. We're going to count by pi over 2. 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2. Sign starts at 0, then A, 1, 0, negative 1, 0. Now, look at your denominator when you divide your phase shift by, when you divide your period by 4, which is 2, and your phase shift is 3. Since it's not the same, we need to find LCD. So LCD of pi over 2 and, 3, pi over 3 is pi over 6. So we're going to count by pi over 6. Okay. 1, 6, 2, 6, 3, 6, 4, 6, 5, 6, 6, 6 is pi. Where do I stop? We have to stop where the period ends. The period ends at 2 pi. 7, 6, 8, 6, 9, 6, 10, 6, 11, 6, 12, 6 is 2 pi. Okay, my A is 1. Don't forget to label everything. Okay, now, where are your points for sine? Sine starts at 0. Now, the next point won't be at pi over 6. Your next point will be at pi over 2, we go up 1. At pi, we go 0. At 3 pi over 2, down 1. At 2 pi, 0. Okay, draw your sine graph. Now, we're going to shift the graph left. But how many times to the left? Now, we're going to shift negative pi over 3. So we need to have some labels on the left side. So the first one is negative pi over 6, negative pi over 3. So from 0 to negative pi over 3, how many times do we go from 0 to negative pi over 3? From 0 to negative pi over 3, 2 times to the left. 2 times to the left. Okay, so for every point, we're going to go left 2. Left 2, 2, 2, 2. And draw your sine graph. And that is number 2. Number 3, y equals 2 sine times the quantity 2x minus pi plus 1. Okay, let's go ahead and find all the necessary information. A here is 2, period is 2 pi over b. This is b, which is pi. Divide the period by 4, so pi over 4. If you were to make your table, counting by pi over 4, we always start at 0. 1, 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4. This is sine, so sine starts at 0, 2, 0, negative 2, 0. Phase shift. Negative c over b is the formula. So negative c is negative pi over b is 2, which is pi over 2. And what is k? Do we have a k? Yes, we do. K is positive 1. K could be in the front of the equation or at the end of the equation. And since k is positive, we're going to shift up. Phase shift is positive. We're going to shift right. Now, let's look at our denominator. A 2 and a 4. Since it's different, we need to find LCD. LCD of pi over 4 and pi over 2 is pi over 4. So we're going to count by pi over 4. Okay. Counting by pi over 4. 1, 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4. Where do we stop? We stop at the period, which is pi, okay? Don't forget to label everything. A is 2. Not negative. Okay, so let's look at where your major points. This is where your major points are going to be at. 0, 0. Pi over 4 up to 0 down to 0. Okay. Now, from 0 to pi over 2, because our phase shift is pi over 2, how many times are we going to shift to the right? Okay, look at the graph. From 0, here's 0. Let me just color code that. Here's 0, and here's pi over 2. So how many times are we going to shift? We're going to shift to the right 2 times. Oops. 2 times to the right. And for every point, we're going to go 2 times to the right, and your k is up. So right 2 times, and then up 1. So for every point, you go right 2, up 1. So the first point is at 0. Right 2, up 1. Right 1, 2, up 1. Right 1, 2, up 1. 1, 2, up 1. 1, 2, up 1. And this is your final graph. Now, we need to label everything. So, after pi, because we go right 2, that would be 5 pi over 4, and then 3 pi over 2. And we need to label the y-axis. We need to add one more, which is 3. And that's your graph. Number 4. Y equals 2 cosecant 2x plus pi over 2. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So we're going to change the problem into sine first. Okay, so A here is 2, period, 2 pi over b, which is pi. Divide the period by 4, so pi over 4. You're going to count by pi over 4. 0, 1, 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4. Sine starts at 0, 2, 0, negative 2, 0. Okay. Phase shift. Negative c over b is the formula. Negative, what is my c? Pi over 2 over b. B is 2. Okay, let's fix this up. Negative pi over 2. Divide 2 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/2. So, negative pi over 4. Because it's a negative, we're going to shift the graph left. Now, let's look at our denominator. Is it the same? When we find our phase shift and when you divide the period by 4. It's the same, so we don't need to find LCD. Okay, let's go ahead and make our graph. Okay, we're counting by pi over 4. 1, 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4. A is 2. Okay, this is sine, so start at 0, up to 0, down to 0. Okay, using a different color, we're going to shift. Now, we're going to shift from 0 to negative pi over 4. How many times are we shifting? Okay, so I need a label on the, to the left rather. Here's negative pi over 4. So we're going to shift each graph 1 time to the left. Okay, because from 0 to negative pi over 4 is 1 time. Okay, so shift to the left once. Let me color code that. 1, 1. I'm shifting 1, okay? Because I'm skipping for every other. So actually I'm shifting 2 times because I'm skipping for every other. Okay, and then go ahead and shift the graph. Now we're going to do the cosecant. Now, where is your asymptote? Your asymptotes are where you have a 0 after your shift. Not the original, but after your shift. So we have an asymptote at negative pi over 4, positive pi over 4, and at 3 pi over 4. Again, we're looking at the one in red. And then draw your parabola. So here's full parabola, and here's full parabola. And that is number 4. And the last problem, number 5. Y equals cotangent x plus pi over 4. Since there's no a, we go straight to the period. The formula is pi over b, different from sines and cosine. Pi over 1, which is pi. And then we're going to divide the period by 2 instead of 4. So pi over 2. Now you have a phase shift. Negative c over b is the formula, same as sines and cosines. So negative c is pi over 4 over b is 1, which is negative pi over 4. Now let's look at the denominator. When you divide the period by 2 and your phase shift, is it the same? No, so we need to find LCD. LCD of pi over 2 and pi over 4 is pi over 4. So you're going to count at pi over 4. 1, 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4. Oh, I forgot. We're going to graph from 0 to 2 pi. 5, 4, 6, 4, 7, 4, 8, 4 is 2 pi. Okay. Now, where's your asymptotes here for cotangent? It's not technically on the evens here, on the 2, 4, 6 label. When you divide your period by 2, it's pi over 2. So if you're going to count by pi over 2, after pi over 2 is pi, and then 3 pi over 2, and then 2 pi. If you're going to count by pi over 2. So your asymptotes are on the even labels from this list. So it's on the pi, and it's on the 2 pi over 2. So that's where your asymptotes is at. Not technically on the even labels that you see on the graph. After you divide your period by 2, that's how you're going to count by, and it's on the even labels on this list here. Okay, and then the graph for cotangent is up, down. Make sure it passes the point in between, right in the middle. Up, down. And that's your graph. Now be careful with tangent and cotangent. When you divide your period by 2, go ahead and count by that particular fraction up to whatever you're given, your domain. And then your asymptotes are on the even labels. For cotangent, it will be on the odd labels from this list, not odd labels technically from the x-axis on the graph that you see. Okay, I hope you understood the lesson. If you have any questions, kindly email me. Thank you.